Sometimes I get stuck, then I don't really know what to do. So I want the people to like come and help me. You know, they come help me with information.
It is good when there's almost a group of children who don't understand and the teacher's going over it in that group. So as well as being able to describe it to the one person, like they're describing it to the rest of the group to make sure they fully understand the task.
And they don't say it in front of the whole class. They take you to and they come to you and ask you, which doesn't make you feel embarrassed.
We have a huge range of needs within the school and within every single classroom because it's fully comprehensive, full mixed ability, and therefore lessons are automatically planned with objectives in mind and differentiated tasks either by outcome or the grouping.
In James Rebbitt's history class, some pupils have English as an additional language and some have behavioural difficulties. There are also 2 pupils with statements of educational need and a further 5 have their needs met through School Action or School Action Plus. In addition, 2 pupils are on the Gifted and Talented register.
One of the first things you need to know when you pick up a new class is their previous attainment, because then you're aware of where they are and what they need to do in order to improve. And I think that's important, not just for students with special educational needs, that's important for every student. You need to make sure that every student has the opportunity to progress.
You may think that you work particularly hard in school, but children in the Industrial Revolution may have had an even harder time than you.
Teachers, they plan their lessons and instead of teaching to the middle of the class, they're considering the full range of ability within the class and the different learning styles that are in one classroom.
What I want you to do is I want you to try and work out, one, what this painting tells you about working conditions for children in factories during the Industrial Revolution. And the other thing I want you to think about is how reliable this picture might be for finding out about children's working conditions during the Industrial Revolution. Now, the first thing you're going to do, I want you to have 2 minutes just to think about both of those questions by yourselves.
The most important thing you need to be able to do is recognise the different needs of each of the students, because some of the students have difficulty in terms of analysing and interpreting the language that you're using or accessing the language that you're using, whereas others have quite high skills in those areas but actually struggle in terms of constructing sentences and developing their answers.
And now, 2 minutes talking to the person next to you about the 2 questions on the board.
I don't think the source is reliable because it's made from a novel and novels aren't always useful because they're just meant to tell a story.
Yeah, but they had to write really hard and I think that was really hard for the children because they were young then.
When you're with people of different abilities you can help each other and the teacher doesn't have to help you so much and the teacher has more time to set up other work and help other groups.
Well, say if I see them struggling and they need any help, I'll try my best to help them, but if not, I'll get a teacher to help.
Once a beginning teacher has a clear understanding of the different levels, I think the easiest way for them to differentiate successfully is to move away from the idea of everybody doing the same activity but with a support sheet for 3 students in the class who may need it. I think it's much more effective if everybody works with the same material and you have different activities, but the students have the opportunity to choose which activity it is they're going to do.
First of all, the teacher can get the job done quicker and go on to help other people, and then you can always ask the person, say, sitting next to you, what to do if you still don't understand it.
In what way is it crowded? What do you think, Marvin?
In that photo you can see there's lots of people all huddled together or close together.
I think it's not an unreasonable expectation when you're asking questions to make sure that every student is involved and engaged in the lesson.
Glenn, what do you think?
I was going to say that...
And that doesn't matter if it means that you have to think particularly carefully about a question for 3 individual students who therefore have the opportunity to answer something, even if it's at a different level to the rest of the group.
Because it means if you really don't understand it, you don't have to say it out loud in front of the class.
Once you've written the lesson, you know what you want the students to learn. Then you set the objectives afterwards. One should be an understanding objective and the second one should be a skills objective. And once that's set after the lesson's written, then they can look at their students' work exercise books afterwards to see if the objectives were met. But quite easily in a plenary they could ask half a dozen questions which would then say whether those objectives have been met or partially met or fully met.
Everybody is going to have a choice in this lesson. Everybody has a source sheet, everybody has an activity sheet. Now, what you've got to do is you've got to decide what activity you're going to complete in this lesson. If you are working at or around a level 4, then I want you to complete Activity 1. Preciosa, you're looking at the wrong sheet. There you go, those are yours.
Sorry.
Right.
How do you know what level you are?
You need to think about what you got on the last assessment.
I've chosen Activity 2 because I got a level 5 in my assessment, my last one and my one before. And I couldn't go for a level 6 because that might be a bit hard.
You can give really clear guidelines for the students in terms of where they are and what they need to do in order to progress.
You need to decide what level you're going to go for and pick the activity that tells you you're going to be scoring that level.
It's also really important that the students get to see those levels and that you break them down and that you use student-friendly language when describing them so that the students can understand the progression between the different levels. And it will get to the stage where you can have a meaningful discussion with a student about what level they're working at, what they need to do to improve to reach the next level. Now, what level did you get on your last assessment?
I think 4C.
You got a 4C. Yeah. So that means I want you working on Activity 1 so that you can work your way up through 4C, 4B and 4A. The thing that you'll soon realise is that the students have the capacity to act in a truly responsible way when they are given a choice, and that they will pick the most suitable and most challenging activity for them. Having that opportunity to progress is a real motivating factor. If you have a student who arrives on a level 3 and you assume that they're not going to be able to access the curriculum at any level above that, then you're disenfranchising that student.
Can I write what they can do to improve it as well?
Look at the question.
Right.
Is the question asking you to do that?
No.
Right, answer the question. What you need to do is you need to put in place a schedule so that that student has the opportunity to move up the levels. And it's all about breaking down what the different skills are in history. And ultimately this will lead to a situation where the students are capable of assessing their own work and deciding what they need to do in order to progress.
Last week you all did your assessments and now I'm going to show you the video and you're going to self-evaluate yourself. So here's your paper, write down notes about what you think went well.
You thought it was generally good. Pranav, what did you think about Ishan's work?
Ishan used good facial expressions and his use of space was very good.
What was your criticism, Karen?
I thought he wasn't loud enough.
You thought he wasn't loud enough. Do other people think that that was a fair comment, that he wasn't loud enough?
If it was lower school, like it's a mixed ability class, I'd ask them to try and look at their prior data, both CATs and SATs, and to try and group students where they were actually able to work as pairs, where you had a more able student working with a less able student. Also, you'd make sure that you had an ethnic mix in your room layout, as well as boy-girl arrangement as well, which is an Ofsted recommendation.
Definitely different mixture of abilities, because students always teach one another and help one another instead of the teacher doing it all.
It's really important to make sure that you include variety in your lessons, because whatever the preferred learning style of a student, they're going to enjoy it more if you take on different activities. If you've got pace, movement and variety in your lesson, everybody will be able to access it and everybody will be able to enjoy it.
Okay, today class we're doing our assessment on our day out. We're going to reenact the time at the zoo. Okay, I'm going to split you up into groups. You, and you.
I'm not working with either of you.
Yeah, she's refusing to work.
Do you want to get to bad
level? Do I have
level?
to be with her?
Yes, I know you can do it. You're very good when you try.
Sometimes a teacher that's really cares about what they do, and if they're enthusiastic about their subject and they make things interesting for us, then we're most likely going to find it fun as well, and that will help us learn more.
It's all about offering motivation and the understanding of progress in a lesson. And these students want to progress just as much as anybody else.
I think people of our age group especially are
like being told all the time that they're doing this that wrong and that wrong. And so to be told that you're doing something right feels really good, and it'll motivate you to do better.
You need to make sure that you don't just focus on the content of the lesson, you're actually asking students questions that relate to the skills that you want them to develop. And you actually give them the opportunity to answer open questions, and you put them under pressure occasionally. You give them the opportunity to really think when you ask a question and be confident enough to let the students have time to think.
General praise, I like just saying that, yeah, well done, you've done good. It just makes you feel happier that you're doing something right.
I've got your assessments back from last week. They weren't very good. I think you could have done a lot better.
I've got your assessments back. I marked them last week and I was really pleased with the high standard of work throughout the class.
You've got a very low level compared to your last assessment.
I'm really particularly pleased with this. You've advanced like 2 levels. You should be really proud of that.
You know that you can do better, right? And I think you should be aiming for a very high level.
You got a really high level. Why aren't you smiling? You should be really pleased with your work.
Never say, that's wrong. Always focus on finding something positive to say to the students, which in itself can be quite challenging at times, but they'll always say something interesting.
There's some teachers in the school, they can kind of talk to you on a teenage level, like not on an adult, like really high level. They can talk to you on a good level, which makes you want to actually get on with your work instead of just sitting down there and do nothing.
You also need to build a positive personal relationship with the students. It doesn't matter how hard you work. If the students don't feel confident and safe in the environment which is your classroom, then they're not going to progress to the best of their ability.
Yes, because some teachers in the school, well, they kind of like, they do it in a fun way. Well, like not in a kind of way that puts you off the work, but in a good way which makes you feel like that you're comfortable with the teacher. Of course, keeping friendly with teachers always helps, because then it sort of gives the student a reason to want to go to the lesson.
I was really pleased with the way that the students took responsibility for differentiating their own work.
I've chosen activity 1, level 4, because I think that might have been easier to choose, because there's like some easy questions as well.
I was confident that I could give the students the choice of 3 different activities, and based on their previous performance, all of the students were able to pick an appropriate activity.
The last thing that you're going to have time for in this lesson is I want you to really think about the way in which that you have worked and therefore learnt. Who felt that their learning was really effective and they've understood everything that they needed to in this lesson? If you did that, thumbs up for me, please. Oh, Mo, that's a lovely thumbs up. That's the most confident thumbs up I've ever seen. Right, now, what made us confident? What made us confident in our learning? Rick, you've said you've given yourself a thumbs up. Why were you happy with what you've done in the lesson?
Because I felt like I understood everything that I was given to do this lesson.
What I was really pleased about was students putting their hand up and saying, "Sir, I was 4B in my last assessment. I think I should do activity 2 because I want to work up towards the top of level 4. What do you think?" That was effective differentiation in my lesson as far as I was concerned.